In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Moon Tea Podcast. Today we have Lisha.
Hi, I'm Lisha.
Yay.
Background about Lisha is that she is a kind and sweet person, and she lives in New York City. She likes Spindrift. She works as a product manager at a big tech company, and she's Canadian. Oh, also we're dating. So
Thanks, Jon.
yeah. So what's up, Hugh? You want to say any questions, or I don't know, Lisha, you want to say something?
No, I am honored to be here today to talk to you guys. Not gonna lie, when Jon was gonna introduce me, for some reason, I thought the first thing he was gonna say was Lisha is a product manager because I don't know, I just identify as that first over other things maybe. So I was kind of surprised that he was like, Lisha is a kind person. And I was like, oh, thank you. But that was just my reflection. How are you doing today, Hugh?
Even better now. This is fantastic. This is the first, like Lisha, this is the first time we're really hanging out.
Yeah. So context for those who are watching, I've met you before, but just like in between podcast shows. And fun fact, some of the guests that have been on the podcast have been some of my friends. I just, have been a little shy in coming on the internet, but I'm excited to like spend this hour or so talking to you. I don't think we've talked ever for that long before. But also a side note, because before I forget, I want to say in front of everyone who is listening, or 5 people,
yeah.
Hugh is officially. Should you say it?
Oh wow, we're really announcing this. Please go for it, Lisha.
Officially design director. Congrats on the promotion.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You are so talented, so humble, such an inspiration to us all.
Also the youngest design director in the history of the company.
Wow.
Also, first design director in the history of the company.
Wow. So many designs to direct.
Yeah.
So many. Wow. Well, I appreciate that. That was very kind of you to express. Whether or not it was a mistake for them to bring me on as the director of product design, I don't know, but we'll find out. If I have no hair or white hair in the next month or 2 or 3 or 5, I'm not doing well. So you'll know.
Okay.
I hope not. I don't want to have white hair. Let's keep the hair black.
More edgy, like I feel like really creative, cool people have like white hair. So
that would actually be kind of cool. Like a cool anime character. You're like that young but white hair. All right. Well, silver. It's called silver.
The time that I peaked was when I had gray hair. I dyed it gray, so it was like all gray. I peaked because I was the edgiest at that time, and now I have all black hair. So clearly, I am less creative.
I love this. Well, let's turn this around from me to you, because you are the guest and star of the show today. So, Lisha, tell us one fun fact about yourself that there's no regrets. What is it?
Oh man, I feel like I should have prepped before this. Fun fact is that I'm not very fun.
What are your hobbies, interests?
Oh no, I'm so nervous. On the spot. I don't know. I feel like one fun thing is that I am Canadian. Another interest I have.
Really? I had no idea. Okay, cool. That's
I go to fun fact.
What? I had no idea.
Wait, what?
No, I didn't. I genuinely, we've never. That's amazing.
But yeah, I am Canadian, dual citizen, but born and raised in Vancouver, and then came to the US for college. So, I mean, Canada is very similar to the US, but there are differences too.
Nice. I love that. Very, very cool. And
Lisha's
you've regretted it ever since. No, I'm just kidding.
Lisha's also American. She happened to be born in the US
Mhm.
just out of chance.
Yeah. I was born in a very small town in Texas because my dad was doing his MBA there. He immigrated.
Amazing. So you can become president, the first female president.
I don't know if John has told you this, but yeah, that was actually, you know how like when kids are young and they're like, I want to be a doctor, a firefighter, a soccer player. My dream was to be the first female president of the United States as a young Asian girl in Canada. I was like, yes, absolutely, that's my dream. And I remember telling everyone about it, and people were so supportive. And then I moved school, so I grew up in like this kind of hoodie area of Canada. Then I moved schools into this like more privileged area of Canada. So there's a lot more like, really smart people, Asians, all that stuff. And they literally laughed at me the first day. They're like, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, the first female president of the United States. And it's like me, like 10 now. They laughed in my face and I then never said anything about it ever again.
Until you came on the podcast.
Exactly.
You
and
proclaimed it to the world.
now who knows? But yeah, not a dream anymore, but was a dream for young Lisha.
So what's the dream now?
Lots of things. I feel like above all, like I want to be able to like have a really great community around me, like family, friends, and like be regarded as like a kind, supportive like person. From the work side, like, so I'm a product manager. I really like doing the work. I think I am also interested in other like industries like mental health, like physical health and all that good stuff too. That I don't know, I'm curious to get into. Haven't really delved into that. I studied psychology in undergrad, as did a ton of people in the US, but it definitely like inspired me to continue to want to like help others and learn about it more.
Lisha is very emotionally intelligent, and so she'll never say this, but around the time that it's her birthday, she'll just have like letters and gifts coming in, and I mean she's close with her friends, and she's very good to them, and yeah, you can tell from these like little things where I don't know, did you have like 20 friends on your list, like 20 New York City friends? I was like number 5 on that list. It's like, wow.
Okay, first, I'll respond to that. Then I'll get some context. First, in response to that, I think that's a saying of the friends I have. They are awesome because they give me like they send these things versus other things. So I can't take credit for that. The second piece is so backing up context, I moved to New York back in August from Seattle. And when I moved to New York, I was like, okay, New York has a lot of people, lots of like my college friends, old friends, work friends. I just want to like make sure that I know who's here so I know who to hang out with. Like life gets crazy. Sometimes you just like forget who's around you. So I made a list of people that I like my friends who are in New York, right? So I would be like, oh yeah, don't forget to catch up with so-and-so, or like this person that you missed, they now live in New York. So I wrote down a list of people, and Jon, maybe it was number 5. I don't know. I don't have the list in front of me, but it was mostly because I created the list thinking, oh, don't forget about, so-and-so, shout out Jody, you were number 1 on the list. I didn't want to forget about you. But it was mostly like, I just like, didn't want to forget about these friends. And then I was like, yeah, let me just put Jon in there just in case.
Drama.
So, that's why. To be fair, my roommates were on there. Maybe they were like, I don't know, before or after Jon, but I just like want to remember. I just want to be like, oh, this is my community, like when I come into the city, this is my community. So I can like look and be like, good amount. Or like, actually, I need to make more friends. It helps me just remember things.
That's amazing, actually.
I was honored to be on the list. So
you did a good job, Jon. You made the cut.
I mean, my brother was on the list too, so like lots of important people to me made it to the list because that was my list of important people.
Yay. That's actually awesome. I think So having moved from Seattle to New York City, what was one of the major reasons or causes? And are you happy with that decision? And I know you two might be thinking of possibly moving away from New York. And how's that experience been altogether? And what are the hopes and aspirations?
Ooh, yeah, good question. So I think like one of the main reasons I moved from Seattle to New York were a few things. Like number one, I lived in Seattle for about 3 years. I was in Houston before that, so I moved from Houston to Seattle. And I was like, like looking for a change. And this was like prime COVID, so I was like had been in my apartment for like God knows how long, and I was just like, maybe I don't want to be here for a little while longer. Maybe I won't be in New York just a year or two, who knows, but I just wanted to change. Second piece was one of my roommates, shout out Jessica. Her and I,
Jessica.
yeah, she's been shouted out a few times on the podcast already. So you already know she owned the lamp that Jon has in his room.
Oh, well, Jessica, I don't even know who you are, but you have good taste. Well done.
Exactly, good taste in friends. But yeah, so one of the other pieces was Jessica and I, were really good friends. We've talked about being roommates for so long, but like we never were able to make it happen, mostly because I would say her boyfriend was, like cock blocking our roommate life because she would just like live with him, obviously. But the reason why I say this is because her boyfriend is currently in MBA school. So it gives me an opportunity to swoop in and be that roommate for her. And then number three is my brother got he started a master's program here in Columbia in the city. So he's only going to be here for a year. And I was like, haven't been, living with him since we were children. So could be a great opportunity. The fourth is, I guess Jon, he lives in the city.
I guess. Number 5. Hey, Jon, you went up 1. You're at 4 now.
Yeah.
I say this because this is not in any order. Okay, these are just come to mind.
Oh, nice. You're very political. You really could become the president of the United States. Like I can see this in you.
The first president. It's not enough to be president.
Female. Okay, I don't want to be the first. Okay, we don't need to be George Washington here. But anyways, Jon, he lives here. Like I like him. We dating. That worked out. And then maybe fifth is like I had never lived in New York. Had only like been a tourist. And like really like the vibe of the city, and I was like, I want to live in New York before I'm 30. So I was like, this is the time to do it. Kind of goes to the first point, but just like it was like a burning desire to be in the city. And the last piece was I just come off like a rotational program at my company. So I was going to be looking for teams to join. So it was a very easy transition to be like, oh yeah, I'll just look at New York teams or I'll look at remote teams. So like my life didn't have to be like, I guess like like disheveled so much. It was just like a cool, like my lease was ending. My job is like this role is ending. Like everything just aligned. And I was like, yeah, like, if I can make this happen, let's do it. Made it happen. Here I am. This is my room. This is my plant. But in general, I'm of the opinion that, I don't know, like moving to me isn't a huge decision because it's just like cities are really exciting. And I don't feel like you have to stay in a city for X number of years or, whatnot. When I moved from Houston to Seattle, because I went to school in Houston College there. Then I lived there for a few years after college. And I moved to Seattle kind of on a whim as well. My dad got sick. And so my parents live in Vancouver. And I was like, yeah, like, okay, I'm moving to Seattle. So I put in a transfer at the job I had at the time. The transfer was accepted on Friday and I moved that Monday. So it was really easy.
Wow.
And yeah, no regrets. I had never lived in Seattle before that. But it was like a no-brainer decision. I also wasn't a huge fan of Houston. So it definitely helped the push and pull. But yeah, so love Seattle. I think we're thinking about post New York life as well. And lots of thoughts there too.
Arizona. Yeah, I hope you travel somewhere. That would be great. That'd be awesome.
Somewhere warm. I don't know. Maybe Arizona.
Yeah, man, it's a snowbird. All right. Oh. You're both in tech. All right. Just get some property. That's easy, right? You can just get property. That's how it works.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Let's make it happen.
Yeah. It's just like, yeah. All right. Awesome. All right. I've asked the last few questions. We can go any which way. Jon, you get to ask a question.
Oh. Let's see. Let's see. I spend a lot of time with Lisha. I feel like I talked to her. What questions do I have for the person I spend
I
a
know,
lot
right?
of time with?
What is the direction of the next topic?
Oh, so a few things that we could talk about, and Lisha, feel free to say what you're particularly interested in. So we can talk about your career path into product, which I think some people might find useful. You can talk about being a sort of immigrant to the United States and kind of like what you missed about Vancouver and what's weird about Americans. And then third, we could talk about our like upcoming travels, upcoming like whatever we have planned.
Yeah, I like all those. I will say, meta note, that I'm sure you guys get this a lot on the podcast. I'm not used to talking about myself like so much. Like there's literally no back and forth. It's just, Lisha, you talk about everything that you can say. So just meta notes. But yeah, we can go in that order because I feel like, I mean, assuming we have time, we can just go through those. Because I feel like the number one thing around like how I got into product management, I get this question a lot in terms of like, just folks asking me LinkedIn or whatnot. So I'm happy to like answer it for the internet so I can direct people to this answer. And then more folks win-win can view your podcast. I can also, just like scale it a bit more. And yeah, I mean, I think very interesting topic to start.
I love that. Yeah, I think it was funny. I went out with some friends the other day. So I was celebrating a friend's birthday, and we were at a bar, and I randomly started talking with this random couple, and ended up the lady was trying to get into design or product or the tech industry. And I was like, yeah, I have a podcast that I do with a really good friend of mine. And this is something we're really interested in and this is something that we talked on with Sam. This podcast was Sam Ovenshine on episode 2 or part 2 was, what is a quality progression track into the industry if you're tangenting fully or if you've never had experience. I just got off the phone with a friend's friend the other day, CJ's friend actually, and CJ will have CJ on at 52, is about how a new UX UI designer is and going through a boot camp can get into it, right? So that would be amazing. Again, to anyone listening, this is a podcast where we talk about craft, community, building meaningful careers. And I think a story from Lisha would be incredible here to learn about your path into what is, I'm sure, was not easy.
Yeah. Thanks for that intro. Cool. So I can kick it off and then we can talk more. So I will first start with like my approach or principles for like finding a career, because I don't think it's the same for everyone. And I just want to say, like, to start off, I kind of like fell into this job where like I didn't know what a product manager was. I studied psychology and business in college. So I don't have a technical background. And then after college, I went off to do management consulting. I worked there for a few years. It's like a variety of things like M&A, op model, all that stuff. And really exciting stuff. But basically what I'm trying to say is I became a generalist and I had no product experience. I had no idea what a product manager even was. And the way I came to it, which I think is probably very different from most people who join product or tech, is that like a recruiter reached out to me on LinkedIn, and she was like, hey, like, we'll try and look for product managers for this. There's this program, it's called rotational product management program. It's basically for people who have little to no product experience, but who want to be PMs. And she reached out to me to go to that info session. I was like, yeah, I'm looking for like exit opportunities. Info session wouldn't hurt, free pizza, why not? It feels like the college days. And the office was like really close to where I lived at the time. So I just walked over, went to the info session. And I remember just like coming out from that info session and being like, what is this job? This sounds awesome. Like you get to lead strategy, vision, all that stuff. And like, it sounded to me like my dream job. Like after that info session, I distinctly remember like going straight into like the dark holes of the interwebs, and I'm like, Googling everything about product management.
Yeah, like what is product management, right?
Like literally learn about like every single person and their opinions on what a product manager does. And then I bought like all the books. I bought like every single book you can imagine on product management. I literally just like bought like 10 interview books, prep books, all that stuff. I was like, I need to learn as much as I can. And then I applied to the rotational product management program. Not like a true ashes to riches story, because I went through the program. I remember going like really hardcore interview studying, but as hardcore as I could. Like I didn't know anyone who worked in tech. I didn't know any product managers. I didn't know anyone who was even adjacent to product management. Like I didn't know any engineers. I didn't know any designers. All I knew were consultants and investment bankers, because that was my circle. So I just like prepped by myself. I got, went through the rounds of interviews, went to the final round, and then sadly, I actually didn't get the job. So I didn't get the job, and I was like real bummed, because I thought, this was a dream job that, I want to do. And I didn't know how to break into tech. I was like, I literally considered every single possible outcome. I was like, maybe I should go to law school, be a product counsel. Maybe I should go to like UX boot camp. Maybe I should be an engineer. Like I considered everything, because I was like, I don't know how to get into tech. And as a consultant, like every other consultant out there wants to get into tech. So that was that story. That was like, I don't know, like 2019 or so. Then comes, later, I was like, so I didn't get the job, and I knew I didn't want to do consulting any longer, but I didn't know what to do. So I basically decided I was going to use another year to, really do some reflection, some introspection there, and just understand like, what do I like to do? What are skills that I have strengths in, and how can I, like, if I want to still be a PM, like take that leap. So I spent the next year, still at the management consulting firm I was at. I did a lot of like project management, and I did a lot of just like self-reflection as to like, writing, reading, talking to other people. And then a year later, the rotational program, RPM program, opens up the applications again. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna apply again. I think like I still want to be a product manager. I want to go through the process again. So I did it, and moved to the final round. And I remember like right after the final round, I called my brother and I was like, I don't know, that was tough. And in that moment, we brainstormed other jobs I could do. We literally brainstormed, maybe I should go back to school, maybe I should get a master's, maybe I should do XYZ. And all of those sound like viable decisions. So I was like, like, let's consider that. Because for me, like, I don't know, I just like, I think I've always been kind of like a generalist and have a lot of like interests and passions. So it's been tough. But needless to say, I got the offers. So I took that job. Thank you. And I've been a PM at the company I work for a little over 2 years now. Not gonna lie, like it's been a bumpy journey, like lots of like imposter syndrome, self-doubt, also like highs and lows, right? And I think like I really like the job now. I think I'm good at it to some extent, yeah, so it's something that I'm glad I like, really fell into. I think others that I've talked to are more intentional about these like steps, and as they should be. I don't recommend the way I did it to anyone. I was like, yeah, this is interesting, let's do it, and I made it. But I think for others, like advice I would give are like, number one, like really figure out like what a product manager does and if that's the right role you want. Like the job, yeah, sure, it's like a really like sexy job, but it's not all good, right? There's like a lot of like responsibilities and stress and pressure that comes with it, and not everyone wants to do that day to day. Number two is like, if you are trying to prep for these interviews, like, not gonna lie, like as with any job interview, it takes a lot of prep. Like I think I thought I prepped a lot, but I did like, I don't know, like 10 or so mock interviews by myself because I didn't know anyone. So I just didn't talk to myself. But I have friends who also got into the program that I did, who did like 50, 80 plus mock interviews, right? And like that seems to be more common for people who get the job. Like they do that many versus the amount I did. I think like I just didn't know, right? So I don't recommend that path. Like it took me 2 years to get there. The third is like, if you're having hard times like breaking into that industry, like tech industry or PM industry, I'd recommend a few things, right? Like number one, there's a lot of variety of like APM, IPM type of programs out there for those who don't have product experience. So like apply to as many as you can. Number two, like I would recommend, like trying to be a product manager in whatever that means to you. So you can like get that experience. I know folks who like, start their own startup or product or like even small team to try to understand, oh, what is that?
I think that was
That was my cat. She's like walking behind me. I'm so sorry.
But yeah, no worries. I was like, build. But anyways, so I'd recommend like, like trying out the role in like a smaller capacity, right? Like if you have the capacity to do that at your current job, like let's say you work at a like adjacent to PM type role, like your engineer, designer, or whatnot, maybe try to like shadow your PM for as long as you can. Try to take on some more of those responsibilities. See if you even like it. If you're not in that kind of role, see if you can do that either in your current scope of work or outside. Because I think like not only does it help like your resume and be like, yeah, hey, I can like actually succeed in this role, but it also helps you understand like, do I like this role, and is this a career path I want to go down? And I think the third is just like learning as much as you can about being PM. I think the way a lot of people do it is like reaching out to folks on LinkedIn and like talking to friends, which is viable, but it's also time consuming. So I would also recommend like reading books, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos. There's a lot of like materials on the internet or just like in general out there that folks can like educate themselves on to understand what it is. And I think being a product manager across all companies is like very different. So you should figure out like what kind of product manager you want to be it like you want to be a 0 to 1, consumer, hardware, platform, something else, there's so many different things. And yeah, so I'll stop at that. I can rant forever on this, but yeah.
I just want to say you're incredible.
Thank you.
I have a few questions. Thank you. I have a few questions. So first, that was amazing. I'm just curious, and for those that are maybe not as deep in the tech industry and with the lingos, what would you say in a quick synopsis is what is a product manager? And I have a few more after that.
Yeah, sure. Sorry with that. I guess three of us are in tech, so we know what product managers are. But basically, the way I would say are like product managers are like the owners of a product, right? A product could be anything like Spindrift, or it could be something like, I don't know, the Apple keyboard or like Facebook Messenger, for example. And then as a product manager, you're responsible for, I would say, two things of the product. Number one is a strategy. Number two is execution. So what I mean by that strategy is like short-term, long-term, like why does this product exist? Why should we continue to invest in it? And then what does success look like for this product? And like, what should success look like 1, 2, 5, 10 years in the future, right? So like you're basically trying to influence everyone who works on the product or adjacent to product that like your product should continue to grow and you should continue to invest in it and people should be excited about it. So that's like the first thing. The second piece is about execution. So it's just basically making sure that shit gets done, right? It's like half project manager, half like cheerleader, half just like unblocker, like anything, you just do whatever it takes to get stuff done. That said, like I've made capacities where like we don't have designers or we don't have like content people. So I step in, I do that stuff too. Like I just figure it out. I will say I'm horrible at it, but I can get it done when you need to, right? So I feel like that's kind of what a product manager does. They like will make sure whatever needs to get done gets done to bring the product forward, right? To like get to that strategy and vision. Those are like the two official, I think, like terms of what a product manager does. More unofficially, I would say like a product manager is kind of like the leader and the coach of the product. So like you're responsible for like the team health, you're responsible for recruiting, you're responsible for like, everything that helps the product be successful. So that includes everything, right? And what I learned when I first onboarded onto my role, and for better or for worse, is like when the product and the team when the product is successful, the team is successful. Like it's because of the team, like everyone did it. Good job, all of us, right? All functions. When the product is unsuccessful, if there's a failure, it's the product manager's fault. The product manager takes sole responsibility. So like in that sense, there's a lot of responsibility that product managers get, for better or for worse, right? Like you are in charge of making the decisions, having those tough trade-offs, and like help like influencing the teams, your partners, the leadership to understand. You're also responsible for like taking the fall for if the decisions end up poor and you know, XYZ. But yeah, so that's kind of what I would say the product manager does.
Amazing. It makes a lot of sense. So basically, like for example, in the tech industry, if a company is trying to make a technological product on mobile or web for what is product in that digital realm, say a mobile application that you have a login flow and you have a few things to add XYZ and talk with somebody, right? A basic app. A product manager, you're saying, is someone who brings together, you know, a team of designers, developers, and whatever else, quality assurance and QA and stakeholders and top management, and you kind of synthesize everything and you bring it all together and you take the fall for everyone. You kind of, I always heard, is it true, the shit umbrella? You literally just block everyone else and you make it feel like an utopic vision for everyone else, but you're the one holding it and taking the fall if anything goes bad, but give the credit to everyone else if it goes well.
I've never heard that. That's largely true. And yeah, I agree with that. And I think like another way to say it is like the product manager is also kind of like the middle person between all the functions, between like, you know, customer, sales, design, engineering, to be able to translate like what are we building for who and why. They're the ones with like that vision.
I love that. And so as you were talking about the beginning of your story and entry and how you made it into the industry for your first hurrah, and then you've grown from there, you mentioned it took you around 2 years to get in the first store, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you did that, are you saying, just correct me if I'm wrong, you were fully self-taught, self-studied, and you basically were working another job, I suppose, for those year or twos, and then somehow read enough, had enough interview self-prep experience that you self-boot camped yourself into an interview process without any experience and managed to crush the interview so well that you became a finalist and then selected to become a product manager?
Oh man, I mean, the way you say that, I feel like gives me way too much credit. Essentially, that is what happened. But honestly, like I think anyone can do that if they, you know, just like study enough, like practice it. A lot of it is like, I think there's like two things, right? There's like the opportunity and being prepared when the opportunity comes. Not everyone gets opportunity. You have to like look for it as well. And not everyone knows how to prepare and practice. So like, I would say, yeah, so like kind of that. But also, yeah, I think like what's tough is if you don't know anyone who is in the industry like I did, I like now looking back, I'm like, I should have reached out to people on LinkedIn. I should have like talked to people, but I just like didn't know anyone. I barely knew what a product manager was. I was like, it sounds very similar to a product marketing manager. Maybe it's the same, you know, wasn't the same. And so, yeah, so highly recommend people get more knowledge. Like I didn't even know what an API was until I read about it.
From Asian Pacific Islander?
What does API stand for?
Who knows what it is?
No, I actually don't, to be honest. I really don't know. What's an API or APM? I heard terms and I didn't actually know.
API stands for application protocol.
Oh, got it. The like we're talking about not a job title. We're talking about like the APIs. Oh, sorry. What was define it for others? I do actually know that. Sorry. I was thinking it was a job title.
Yeah, you define it.
I can define it. So an API, and so when you think about what a computer is doing, it is sending instructions to another part of the computer, and it eventually gets translated into like ones and zeros. And so the thing that translates the ones and zeros is like gets translated into some sort of like low level programming language, which gets translated into a higher level programming language, which it just kind of like, and that's how it goes from like the machine layer to the software layer. And eventually at the software layer, you reach like there's some sort of application that understands a way of like taking instructions and then like a very basic like request where you ask for something and you get something back. And the API is just it's like the instructions on how to interact with that computer or application. And so like everything is an API. Like this like keyboard is an API because that's it has instructions, like there's a pattern, and you like expect some sort of like something back. And so yeah, it's a way of like getting humans to interact with computers and software and applications.
That is such a technical answer. I didn't know all that. I will say, so this is a how PMs translate. I didn't know that. What I knew was, or my definition, Jon, correct me if I'm wrong, is APIs are kind of like a platform that you can use for other types of products. So like, for example, on Uber, like there's a map that shows like where your driver and your car is, right? That map is a Google Maps API. Uber didn't build the map. They just took an API from Google Maps to go on the interface. So what Jon said, but how I see it.
What Lisha said.
This is actually so entertaining. This is amazing. So Jon is an amazing engineer and dev, and as we can tell, he knows so much. I don't know much about machine layers, learning layers, or the machine layer.
Hugh and I worked on one project together where we made a website.
Yeah, or like an assembly, but yeah, that was yeah. And so the entertaining thing is that we have a PM, a dev, and a designer in the room right now. So we technically create an agile pod.
Right. All right.
And so, why not? I'll be the third attempt to define it from a design point of view, or at least my point of view of what an API is. API, an application programmable interface, whatever that means. The way I once was explained to me that I thought helped was, you think about like a computer or a wall of sockets, and there's other plugs, and you plug in this plug into that socket, and that's basically how requests are, an API works. It's there's like something here, and you're plugging into it, and you're being able to then communicate information and going from there.
We're all right.
This is it.
So interesting how we can have different like point of views on what we think an API is, or like, I mean, I'm sure we know other parts of API, but what we want to share as like the definition of an API for like people who don't know what it is.
And this is why it's so hard to get into tech, because everything is so convoluted.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I forgot where we were going with this conversation.
Well, something that was of really, really awesome interest was the fact that you were self-taught and you got into the industry and managed to become a product manager and have grown from there. Something that I wanted to ask after that was, from your perspective as someone, we were talking about this again in the SAM podcast, is, at least from my perspective, and it sounds like you did this, is knowing what the like check boxes of things you need to know to have the minimal viable product of you being like eligible to being a viable candidate. And so that was probably a junior product manager role. And something that I wanted to ask really quickly was, in your understanding of the progression track, what are the different levels? And we're not going to probably say L1, L2, L4, L5, but what are the different levels of progression that people should know in a generalized model of what a PM's growth track is?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think that's like two major tracks for PM. The first is like you grow within the company, right? So you start out like junior PM, then you become PM, then senior PM, then like, I don't know, super senior PM, but that's probably called like group or principal PM. Or
I was like, is that the title? Super senior PM?
Right? But it's probably like some director, group, principal PM. Then from there, you can be like VP of product. Then from there, you can be like chief product officer, right? So that's like, if you want to move up into like in the company you're in, it's largely a company that has all those roles, or you could be like a product manager or senior product manager like forever. Like you don't have to become a director for most companies. You can stay at like a IC, individual contributor level, if you want to continue to do that work versus managing teams and managing like large other non-PM things, right? Other people move to a different direction, which is, they become junior PM, senior PM, but instead of continuing to progress in that company, they want to get to like a startup founder or like a CEO of some sort, right? So then they'll go off to like, be a PM at a startup or start their own startup or just like be the CEO of whatnot. There's a few folks who like are directors at like big tech companies who then go off to be like CEO at like some other big company. Because a lot of like how you think about product is also how CEOs maybe think about product or like startup founders. So I think there's a lot of like transferable skills. So I think a lot of PMs embody those traits. So those are like, I would say, the classic two routes if you want to continue to be a product leader.
That's awesome. That's a really cool explanation. Yeah, like PMs basically, from what little insight I've seen, you not only have to analyze the market, do user research, user testing, you have to also have and create analytical processes to analyze how the product or release of that feature is doing in the short, mid, long term, to then iterate upon that product to then find the best next feature set that will then, quote unquote, align with the company's, say, OKRs, objective and key results, or increase the gross transaction volume or the GTV or the so NPS. And so like basically a PM has to think not just like me, I'm trying to figure out what design actually means at scale for companies, but let's bookmark that. But like as a PM, you have to kind of understand product at a dev level, product at a design level, product at a research level, product at a user market research level, product at a company growth level and strategy level, and align with stakeholders and also be that direct point of contact for high-level staff or stakeholders of different marketing or different departments to then create more stuff. That's unbelievable. I don't know. PMs, honestly, I don't know how you literally survive. I don't know how you do it.
I mean, honestly, I feel like that's why I say, like, if you want to be a PM, really understand the job and what you're signing up for, because it's not that easy and not everyone likes to do it and not everyone's successful at it. One other thing I would say on that vein is, if you are interviewing for like a more junior, like no product experience type of PM, or little, like I define little as like less than 2 years of product experience, which is basically like, you don't have to be the best product thinker there is, right? Like companies are not hiring you because they think you're the best PM they've ever met, right? Like, of course, it's a plus if you are, but likely you won't be if you don't have product experience, right? But I think what a lot of companies, when they look for like RPM or APM type roles, is they look for like a few things, right? Like number one is they look for a lot of grit and resilience. I think that like goes a long way. I mean, for any job, any role, but I think especially for PMs, because like there's so much like responsibility weight on your shoulders, and like in every meeting I'm in, I always have to like figure out what the next steps are, what the decision is, all that stuff. Like you're just on your toes all the time, so you have to have like grit and resilience. And I will say, like, I failed more in my 6 months in the role than like all the years I was not like a consultant before, right? Like failing is like all the time, and you have to like be really comfortable with it. And you're like, to that end, like you have to be really resilient. The second piece is like you have to have like really good communication skills, because like I would say like this might be more of a big tech PM versus like startup PM, but regardless, I think like PMs, they're known to be able to influence others, like help drive vision strategy. So like if you can communicate well verbally and written, what's the written? Wow, this is clearly, I'm good at communication, not good at words here. But like if you're not good verbally and like writtenly, then it can be a struggle. Wow, this is ironic. But you know what I mean. Idea goes still there.
Words good.
Words are hard. But
Words
what I'll say is like communication is part of the job, and it is a really key aspect of the job, because if you're not able to communicate and like influence people without authority, what I mean by that is like typically PMs don't have people who report under them, but they have a team of like designers, engineers, XYZ that they need to convince because they manage their work, right? So there's a lot of communication within your team, to leadership, to partner teams, to XYZ, everyone who needs to know anything. And a lot of times like the PM is this single point of contact. So I would say like if people are like prepping for PM interviews, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so hard, like really tough. I would say like also trying to figure out if there's other aspects that can help you be a good PM that you can like get, I don't know what's the right word, like leverage more or just like improve. Because I think it goes a long way.
Cool. Thanks, Lisha. I'm gonna do a hard topic change because we have 8 minutes left and we have a hard stop. So Lisha, I'm just curious about on the topic of traveling, on the topic of dreams and ambitions. Yeah, what are you interested in? Like what kind of lifestyle are you into, like 1 year, 2 year, 5 years out? And yeah, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, thanks for asking. That's always just like a very heartwarming topic. I'll preface that with, as I was thinking about my answer, I was like, oh my God, like I'm so lucky to have the opportunity to like think about what kind of life and like what kind of lifestyle I want. Like this is such a privilege, and I don't think like a lot of people our age or people around the world really get. So like start with that. I know that super privilege and that like things could change all the time. I would say like there's a few things. The first is like having freedom, whatever, like in the sense that the freedom to be able to do things I like, be places I want to be, and the ability to like stand up against things that I don't think like are right. I think that's like really important to me, either like the way I'm treated, the way friends are treated, the way my community is treated, XYZ. I think like that is really important to me, to have like that level of freedom, and the freedom to like choose like jobs I want to work at, companies I want to work for, things I want to do. Like I want to have that opportunity versus like, yeah. And I think like an answer to that is like having financial freedom, where like, you know, like you have enough money so you don't work for money and you work for other things, and then you can make choices. The second part is being able to feel just like calm and really fulfilled in life. And what that means to me is that like I have a good sense of who I am, what I want to get out of my life. And like, let's say like I die and I'm like, yeah, like I didn't do everything I wanted to, I probably won't, but the things I did, like that was worth it, right? And I feel like our lives in the grand scheme of things are so short, that we can't really take life so seriously. So those are two like overarching feelings I want to have in life. I realize those are not like maybe actual answers and what I want. But in terms of like actual answers too, I want to be able to, like, as cliche as it sounds, like see a lot of the world and like experience different cultures and different like just like broader than what I know, because like all I know is like the Western way of living, right? Like I grew up in Canada, I now live in the US. I don't know anything different, right? And when I hear like my parents' stories of how they grew up in China and like other friends and how they grew up, it's like mind-boggling that for them that is status quo, the same as like living in America is for us, right? And I want to like learn about other people and how they think about the world, because I think like how I think about the world as like a one-sided point of view is probably not the best version of like my mind. So I want to like do that. Another thing I want to get out of life is like constant learning. One thing that I'm just like interested in is like everything, in the sense is like how does like, I don't know, like how does, for example, like how did this aluminum can get made? And like what are the different colors, and like what is the name of this color? And like why does raspberry taste like that? Like those are so like random questions, but like I want to know those answers. And I want to know like why dogs like learn tricks fast and cats don't. And I want to learn like why people make decisions, and some people like don't care about others and some people care about others. And I want to learn like so many things. I just like want to be able to have the opinion, or like I just want to be able to like learn, because I feel like, yeah, anyway, so I'll stop at that. And then I think another thing is dreams and ambitions. I also want to be able to, I think like one thing I care really strongly about, which I mentioned in the beginning, but also like I haven't really explored this quite yet, is like the ability to make an impact in mental health. I think about this as like not mental health for people like us three, maybe, because I feel like we're all privileged in the sense that like we could seek help if we wanted to. There's a lot of resources online, but more so for like people who are younger. So like I think under 18, maybe, who are like just like learning about themselves, don't really understand what mental health is, maybe grew up in stigma, like the parents don't understand what it is, they maybe live in a community where they can't afford it. I feel like that's so important. And like I hear so many stories of people, and like they just like, it's like it kind of, it's something they deal with for the rest of their life. And it's something that like, it's really tough, and it can like really change course of their lives as well. I know like maybe almost at time, but that's just something that like I want to do over other things that I care about too.
Wow. No, like first female president.
Stop.
You heard it here first.
You got my vote. One quick question is, just in general, are there any books and or nonprofits and or organizations that you'd like to highlight?
Ooh, so many, but how would I start? I feel like a good place to like just for people to read up about are I feel like there's a lot of like good self-help books. I think if people are just like interested in learning about the space, like I think like Grit by Angela Duckworth is really good, and like all the things that relate under like Amazon recommends, like all those books probably are good. There's a few others, but I think like those touch on the surface of people who like maybe don't know or like want to be more self-aware. I think like nonprofits wise, nothing really comes to mind, so I feel like a horrible citizen for saying this, but maybe Jon.
Lisha nonprofit, donate now.
Oh God, I don't know, but
if anyone listening wants to shout out a nonprofit, put it in the comments below.
Seriously,
like,
that's
comment,
awesome.
subscribe. But yeah, so I think there's a lot of good nonprofits. I feel like Jon, you had what's the name of that website?
Oh, the movement called Effective Altruism, and the website was called what was it called? Giving. I don't know.
We will put it in the comments below.
Google effective altruism. This can help, but I think that's helpful. What I also recommend is like for people who are listening and who are like, I also want to learn and how do I give back, is like there's a lot of like local like community centers and like organizations that are really impactful for the communities. Like when I lived in Houston, I volunteered at this like local community center called like the Montrose Center. Shout out those in Houston who know. It's basically a center for like LGBT youth who don't have anywhere else to go, and like a place for like group and like therapy and like supports. I managed the like snacks and barista area, so I was able to like help with that and also like help with other things around there. But like those are ways that you can like educate yourself about it and also give back, or even donate to, whatever works.
I love that. Yeah, that would be really cool, Jon, for us to maybe one day try to reach out to like someone from a like a nonprofit of some sort and see if anybody would like to talk randomly
or that would be
on here. Yeah, I think that would actually be really cool. Like,
I think we can probably get in touch with many hopes because we went to their ball.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Like,
we probably can, honestly. That you just inception something into my mind.
Cool.
That being said, we should close because Lisha has a thing.
Oh, the hard stop is my hard stop. It's not. It's a light stop. It's
a medium
stop.
Okay, well, in that case, I'm curious if you have any words of wisdom for our 10 to 20 listeners.
I think words of wisdom is that, like, wow, this is gonna sound so depressing, but I'm gonna say it anyways, is that like life is hard, that there's gonna be so many challenges, like no matter what, but that's a part of life. And I feel like no matter what struggle that like people are facing, whether it's like personal, at work or like with family, whatever, like things get better, like time heals a lot, and so does like, just we grow and we get stronger and more mature, and like we just get better handling like these things. So I encourage everyone to just do all those like thoughts and also like meditation is great. Says me who hasn't meditated in a while, but got a lot of help when I did. And yeah, that's it.
And pop-up question, what is a book that has really influenced you? One book.
One book. I really liked, what a tough one. I'll go back to like early stages of reading. I really liked Handmaid's Tale. I read this like in like high school, and it was interesting to me because it was like, you know, I think like a lot of dystopian novels is it had me realize that like that world seemed fine for the people who live there, but like to us it's dystopia. And I personally just like feel very moved by those kind of novels, because it helps us realize, or like that like our world doesn't mean it's perfect, and like it also helps us understand like how we can work towards making it better, but also that like no world is perfect. Oh, dark. I'm gonna end it at that.
That was the perfect conclusion and segue into, you heard it here first. And we're gonna sadly have to come to another end of another episode of the Moon Tea podcast, where we had the incredible Lisha grace us with her presence and teach us a lot about so many things, honestly. Thank you, Lisha, for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And so, yeah, this is, again, to everybody listening, this is the Moon Tea podcast, where we talk about craft, community, and building meaningful careers, and anything else. If you ever have anyone or anything that you'd be interested in discussing or wanting to hop on, if you're listening, please like recommend away and shoot us a line at moonteapodcast@gmail.com, or I don't know, just reach us somehow. Anyways, take it easy, and until next time, peace.